Have you ever felt your leg muscle suddenly seize up like a steel trap in the middle of the night, forcing you to leap out of bed, gasping for relief? Maybe you've clutched your calf, desperately massaging and stretching, counting the seconds until that vice-like grip finally releases. And here's the mystery that baffles thousands of my patients every single year. Why do these brutal episodes multiply the moment the thermostat drops and frost appears on your windows? What if I told you that your leg cramps follow a calendar, that every winter, like clockwork, millions of Americans over 60 experience a mysterious tripling of muscle pain that vanishes the moment spring arrives? For years, people blamed it on aging, on bad luck, on sleeping wrong. But the truth is far more fascinating and far more fixable than anyone imagined. Let me paint you a picture. Thomas, 71 years old, lives in Minnesota. Strong man, retired factory worker, never complained about much. But every November something changed. He'd wake up 3, sometimes 4 times a night, his calf muscles locked in excruciating spasms that left him limping the next day. He spent thousands of dollars on magnesium supplements, potassium pills, special mattresses. Nothing worked. Then April would roll around and like magic the cramps disappeared. This pattern repeated for 5 years before he walked into my office exhausted and desperate. Here's the shocking part. 33% of people over 60 experience leg cramps every 2 months. But what the statistics don't tell you is that this number isn't constant throughout the year. Research tracking prescription data and medical searches across North America revealed something extraordinary. Leg cramp symptoms roughly double between winter lows and summer highs, showing a seasonal pattern so precise it accounted for 88% of monthly variability. Think about that. Your suffering follows the seasons as reliably as the leaves changing color. Now you might be thinking, wait, doesn't heat cause cramps? Don't athletes get them in summer? That's one of the biggest myths about leg cramps, and it's time we set the record straight. Yes, athletes cramping during intense summer workouts is real, but that's a completely different beast. Those cramps come from overexertion and profuse sweating. For those of us over 60, the cramps that interrupt our sleep, that make us afraid to stretch in bed, that steal our rest and our peace, those follow an entirely different rule book, and in that rule book, winter is the villain. Here's another myth that drives me crazy. People think drinking more water solves everything. If I had a nickel for every time someone told me they're chugging 8 glasses a day and still cramping, I could retire tomorrow. The truth. Hydration matters, yes, but cold weather changes how our bodies use water in ways most people never consider. And here's the third myth that breaks my heart, that these cramps are just part of getting older and you have to learn to live with them. Absolutely false. What you're experiencing has a clear physiological cause, and where there's a cause, there's a solution. So what's really happening when December rolls around and your legs start their nightly rebellion? I'm about to reveal something that changed Thomas's life, and I believe it can change yours too. The culprit isn't your age, it isn't bad genes, it's hiding in plain sight right there in the dropping temperatures and the heater running in your bedroom. Welcome back to Verum Health Podcast, where every episode helps you stay strong, independent, and sharp as you age. I'm Dr. Samuel Harrison, and I've spent 42 years specializing in neuromuscular and geriatric medicine right here in the United States. Over 4 decades, I've treated thousands of patients, and I've learned something crucial. The answers to your most frustrating health problems are often simpler than you think. But simple doesn't mean obvious. Today we're going to unravel the winter cramp crisis together. And by the end of this conversation, you're going to understand exactly why your legs hurt more when it's cold. And more importantly, what you can do about it starting tonight. Here's what I want you to understand right now. When Thomas finally learned what was causing his seasonal torture, he didn't need surgery. He didn't need expensive treatments. The solution was so straightforward he almost couldn't believe it. But before I reveal what turned his winters around, we need to understand what cold weather actually does to the blood vessels in your legs. Because once you see the hidden mechanism at work, everything else makes perfect sense. Comment yes if you've ever woken up with a leg cramp, and subscribe to Verum Health for free tips that can transform your daily comfort. Trust me, what you're about to discover in the next few minutes could save you years of unnecessary suffering. Stay tuned, because the science behind winter cramps is about to blow your mind. Let me tell you about Martha Rodriguez, 73 years old, living in Denver, Colorado. Martha raised 4 children as a single mother, worked 30 years as a school secretary, and now spends her golden years spoiling her 7 grandchildren. She's the kind of grandmother who never misses a soccer game, who still bakes cookies from scratch every Sunday, and who takes pride in her independence. But every year, as October fades into November, something shifts in Martha's world. Picture this: it's 2 in the morning, mid-December. The heater's humming quietly in the corner. Martha's been sleeping peacefully when suddenly her left calf muscle seizes up like someone's grabbed it with a vice grip. The pain is so intense she actually cries out, waking her husband of 48 years. She's gripping her leg, trying to stretch it, but the muscle feels like it's turned to stone. This is the 4th time this week, the 4th time this month. And just like every winter for the past 6 years, she knows it's only going to get worse. By January, Martha's afraid to go to bed. She started sleeping with her legs elevated, keeping a heating pad nearby, even doing calf stretches before getting under the covers. But nothing seems to help. The cramps don't just happen at night anymore. They strike when she's standing up from her favorite armchair to answer the door for her granddaughter. They hit when she's reaching up to get the good china down for Sunday dinner. They're stealing her confidence, making her second-guess every movement. Here's what breaks my heart: Martha thought this was just her body giving up on her. At 73, she figured leg cramps were the price of admission to her golden years. Her primary care doctor prescribed magnesium supplements and told her to drink more water. Well-meaning friends suggested potassium-rich bananas and pickle juice. Her daughter bought her expensive compression socks that she wore dutifully every day, but still every winter brought the same cycle of pain and sleepless nights. But Martha's story isn't unique. What she didn't know is that she's part of a vast, invisible community of older Americans who experience this same seasonal torture. The data is staggering when you really look at it. We're talking about millions of people over 60 whose quality of life plummets every single winter, and most of them have no idea why. You see, Martha grew up in an era when people didn't question their doctors, didn't research their symptoms online, didn't demand explanations for their suffering. Born in 1952, she lived through the space age, watched man walk on the moon, saw the invention of the internet. But when it came to her own body, she accepted what seemed like inevitable decline. That generation, your generation, was taught to be tough, to push through pain, to not complain. But here's what I've learned in 4 decades of treating patients like Martha. Acceptance of unnecessary suffering isn't strength. It's just unnecessary suffering. The winter Martha came to see me, she was at her breaking point. She'd started limiting her activities, declining invitations to evening events, even avoiding babysitting her youngest granddaughter overnight because she was afraid of waking the whole house with her cries. This woman, who had weathered poverty, divorce, and raising children alone, was being defeated by muscle cramps. But more than that, she was being defeated by the isolation that comes with unexplained pain. What Martha couldn't have known is that her body was responding exactly as evolution designed it to. Every winter, as temperatures dropped, her blood vessels were doing something that had kept her ancestors alive for thousands of years. But in our modern world of heated homes and sedentary lifestyles, this ancient survival mechanism had become her enemy. The fascinating part of Martha's story, and perhaps yours too, is how precisely her symptoms followed the calendar. November 15th, like clockwork, the first cramp. By December, they were weekly. January and February were the worst months, with cramps every few nights. Then, as if someone flipped a switch, March would arrive and the frequency would start dropping. By May, she was sleeping peacefully again, wondering if she'd imagined the whole ordeal. This pattern repeated so consistently that Martha's husband started marking the calendar. He called it cramp season, and they began planning their lives around it. No late dinners out in January, no overnight trips to visit family in February. Their world shrank every winter, expanding again only when spring arrived. But here's the crucial detail that would eventually unlock everything. Martha lived in a well-insulated house with excellent heating. She wasn't cold. Her core body temperature was perfectly normal. She wasn't shivering, wasn't experiencing hypothermia, wasn't even feeling chilly most of the time. So how could cold weather be affecting her so dramatically? Stay tuned to discover the science behind what was happening to Martha's circulation. Because understanding this mechanism is the key to breaking the cycle that may be controlling your winters too. Now let me explain exactly what was happening to Martha every winter, because understanding this mechanism will transform how you think about your own leg cramps. The science here is both elegant and devastating in its simplicity. When temperatures drop, your body initiates an ancient survival protocol called vasoconstriction. Think of your blood vessels as tiny highways carrying life-sustaining blood to every muscle, organ, and tissue. When it gets cold, these highways don't just slow down traffic, they literally narrow their lanes. Your blood vessels constrict, reducing their diameter by up to 30% in some cases. This isn't a malfunction. It's your body trying to keep you alive by conserving heat and protecting your vital organs. But here's where the problem begins for people over 60. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology followed older adults through controlled cooling experiments and discovered something alarming. When exposed to even mild cold stress, not core body temperature dropping cold, but just surface skin cooling, seniors experienced blood pressure increases that were more than twice as high as younger adults. The researchers found that arterial stiffness, which naturally increases with age, was the strongest predictor of this exaggerated response, explaining 63% of the variation in how severely people reacted to cold. Let me put this in terms that make the connection to leg cramps crystal clear. Your calf muscles are some of the hardest working muscles in your body. They're your body's secondary heart, pumping blood back up from your feet against the force of gravity every time you take a step. These muscles are packed with blood vessels, and they depend on steady, robust circulation to function properly. When cold weather triggers vasoconstriction, blood flow to your leg muscles can drop by 20 to 30%. Now imagine trying to drive your car with the fuel line partially blocked. The engine might run okay when you're idling, but the moment you ask it to work hard, it sputters and fails. That's exactly what happens to your leg muscles during cold weather. During the day, when you're moving around, your muscles can often compensate for the reduced blood flow. But at night, when you're lying still for hours, when your circulation naturally slows down anyway, and then you stretch or shift position in your sleep, suddenly demanding that partially starved muscle to contract quickly, that's when the system fails catastrophically. The second piece of this puzzle involves something most people never consider: winter dehydration. A fascinating study tracking hydration levels throughout the seasons found that people over 60 consistently drink 20 to 25% less fluid during winter months compared to summer. Your thirst sensation naturally decreases in cold weather. You're not sweating, so you don't feel like you need fluids. Meanwhile, indoor heating systems are running constantly, pulling moisture out of the air and literally dehydrating you through your skin and respiratory system every night while you sleep. Here's where the science gets really interesting. When you're even mildly dehydrated, your blood becomes thicker, more viscous. Combine that with narrowed blood vessels from vasoconstriction, and you've created the perfect storm for muscle cramps. It's like trying to push honey through a straw instead of water. The muscle tissue isn't getting the nutrients and oxygen it needs, and it can't efficiently flush out the waste products that build up during normal cellular function. But this is only half the truth. The part that most doctors miss, the part that explains why Thomas spent thousands of dollars on supplements without success, involves a third factor that compounds everything I've just described: electrolyte imbalance caused by indoor heating. Your body maintains a delicate balance of sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. These minerals are essential for proper muscle function. When your heating system runs all winter, it doesn't just dry out the air, it changes how your body processes these critical electrolytes. Dry indoor air causes you to lose more sodium through your skin. Your kidneys respond by conserving sodium and dumping potassium and magnesium. Meanwhile, because you're drinking less fluid, you're getting fewer electrolytes from your diet, and the ones you do get are more concentrated in your thicker blood. Research from the University of Alberta tracked emergency room visits for leg cramps over a 5-year period and found something remarkable. The seasonal pattern was so consistent it could be predicted with 88% accuracy based solely on temperature and humidity data. November through February showed the highest cramp incidence, with January being the peak month. But here's the crucial detail: the correlation wasn't with outdoor temperature alone. It was strongest with the combination of outdoor cold and indoor heating usage. This explains why people living in well-heated homes often experience worse cramps than those in slightly cooler but more humid environments. It explains why Martha's symptoms were so predictable, starting in November when the heating system kicked in for the season and ending in March when it finally shut off. The implications are staggering. We're talking about a condition that affects millions of older Americans every winter, that sends people to emergency rooms, that disrupts sleep and quality of life, and that has a clear preventable physiological cause. But this is only half the truth, because the real revelation is how this individual suffering adds up to a massive public health crisis that almost nobody talks about. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal about the societal impact of winter leg cramps will shock you, and more importantly, it will show you why solving this problem is more urgent than you ever imagined. Now let me paint a picture of what this winter cramp crisis looks like when you zoom out from individual suffering to see the bigger picture. Because Martha and Thomas aren't isolated cases, they're part of a silent epidemic that affects nearly every family in America. Picture this: across the United States, there are approximately 54 million people over the age of 65. Based on the research showing that 33% experience leg cramps regularly, we're talking about roughly 18 million older Americans dealing with this problem. But here's where it gets staggering: when we account for the seasonal doubling of symptoms during winter months, that means every November through February we have approximately 36 million instances of severe cramping episodes each month affecting this population. Think about what that means in practical terms. 36 million sleep disruptions. 36 million moments of acute pain that jolts someone awake in the middle of the night. And each of these episodes doesn't just affect the person cramping. It wakes up their spouse, disrupts their household, creates anxiety about going to bed the next night. You're looking at potentially 70 to 80 million people whose sleep and quality of life are impacted every winter. The healthcare burden is equally sobering. Emergency room visits for muscle cramps spike dramatically during winter months. People rush to the hospital terrified they're having a blood clot or a circulation emergency. Each of these visits costs the healthcare system anywhere from $500 to $2,000 when you factor in imaging, blood work, and physician time. But more than the financial cost, think about the emotional toll. The fear, the uncertainty, the feeling that your body is betraying you in ways you can't understand or control. Here's an analogy that really captures the scope. Imagine if every winter a condition emerged that caused 18 million Americans to lose several hours of sleep multiple times per week for 4 solid months. We'd call it a public health crisis. We'd have task forces studying it, public awareness campaigns, dedicated research funding. But because leg cramps seem minor, because they're not fatal, because they happen privately in people's bedrooms in the middle of the night, they remain invisible. The ripple effects touch every corner of senior life. People stop exercising because they're afraid movement will trigger cramps. They cancel social plans because they're exhausted from poor sleep. They reduce their fluid intake in the evening, trying to avoid nighttime bathroom trips that might trigger cramping, which ironically makes the dehydration worse. Grandparents decline to babysit overnight. Couples stop traveling during winter months. Independence slowly erodes, not because of a dramatic medical event, but because of cumulative nights of disrupted sleep and days of lingering muscle soreness. The tragedy is that this is largely preventable. We're not talking about an incurable disease or an inevitable consequence of aging. We're talking about a physiological response to environmental conditions that can be modified with simple, inexpensive interventions. But most doctors don't connect the dots between cold weather, indoor heating, dehydration, and leg cramps. They prescribe magnesium supplements and send patients home, never addressing the root cause. I've seen this pattern repeated thousands of times over my 4 decades in practice. Patients shuffle between specialists getting tests for circulation problems, nerve damage, electrolyte imbalances. Everything comes back normal. They're told there's nothing wrong, which is somehow worse than finding a problem because it means there's no solution, no treatment, no hope for relief. They resign themselves to suffering, mark their calendars for cramp season, and shrink their lives to accommodate the pain. But what if I told you that Martha Thomas and millions like them don't have to live this way? What if the solution isn't expensive treatments or prescription medications, but simple environmental adjustments and natural remedies that work with your body's physiology instead of against it? That's exactly what we're going to explore next, and I promise you these practical solutions are going to change how you experience every winter for the rest of your life. Let me share with you the exact protocol that transformed Martha's winters and freed Thomas from his seasonal nightmare. This isn't theory. This is practical wisdom refined over 42 years of clinical practice, backed by science, but rooted in common sense. Think of your winter cramp prevention strategy as building a fortress with 4 protective walls. Each wall supports the others, and together they create an impenetrable defense. The first wall is thermal protection. Remember, cold weather constricts your blood vessels by up to 30%. Your mission is to keep your leg muscles warm, not just your core body. Here's what works. Wear 15 to 20 millimeter mercury compression socks indoors during winter months. Not the heavy support stockings that are hard to put on, but gentle graduated compression that supports blood flow without being uncomfortable. Research published in BMC Neurology in 2021 found that compression stockings significantly reduced leg cramp frequency in older adults, with participants reporting marked improvement within just 2 weeks of consistent use. But compression alone isn't enough. At night, your legs need insulation. Keep them covered while sleeping, even if you like a cool bedroom. I tell my patients to wear lightweight cotton or bamboo pajama pants year-round during winter, or use a small blanket specifically for their legs. The goal isn't to make yourself sweat, it's to maintain stable muscle temperature throughout the night. When Martha started sleeping with her legs covered, she noticed a 50% reduction in nighttime cramps within the first week. The second wall is humidity management. Indoor heating systems are silent dehydrators pulling moisture from the air and from your body every single night. A bedroom humidifier is non-negotiable during winter months. Set it to maintain 40 to 50% humidity. You can buy a simple hygrometer for less than $15 to monitor your levels. Thomas invested in a quality ultrasonic humidifier for his bedroom, and within 3 nights he went from 4 cramps per week to 1. The difference was that dramatic. The moisture in the air prevents your skin and respiratory system from losing precious hydration while you sleep, and it keeps your mucous membranes from pulling water from your bloodstream. The third wall, and this is where most people get it wrong, is strategic hydration. You've heard drink 8 glasses of water a day your whole life, right? Well, that advice doesn't account for winter physiology or aging bodies. Here's the truth. Cold water shocks your system and can actually trigger vasoconstriction. Instead, sip warm herbal tea throughout the day. Chamomile, ginger, or peppermint tea works beautifully. The warmth helps maintain your core temperature, encouraging blood flow rather than restricting it. Aim for 6 to 8 cups of warm fluids daily, with the last cup finishing 2 hours before bed to avoid nighttime bathroom trips that can trigger cramping when you get up. Here's a specific hydration schedule that works for most of my patients. Start your morning with warm lemon water. Mid-morning, have a cup of herbal tea. With lunch, drink warm bone broth, which provides not just hydration but also magnesium, calcium, and sodium. Afternoon tea around 3 o'clock. Early evening herbal tea at 6. This pattern keeps you consistently hydrated without overwhelming your system with large amounts of fluid at once. The fourth wall is nutritional support through natural food sources. Forget the supplement bottles for a moment. Your body absorbs electrolytes far more effectively from food than from pills. For magnesium, incorporate pumpkin seeds, almonds, and dark leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard into your daily diet. A quarter cup of pumpkin seeds provides nearly 50% of your daily magnesium needs. For potassium, sweet potatoes, avocados, and white beans are superior to bananas and easier on blood sugar. For calcium, Greek yogurt provides not just calcium but also protein that supports muscle repair. Eat a small bowl of Greek yogurt with a handful of almonds and pumpkin seeds as an evening snack about 2 hours before bed. Bone broth deserves special mention. Homemade bone broth simmered for at least 8 hours with a splash of apple cider vinegar extracts calcium and magnesium from the bones and forms your body recognizes and absorbs beautifully. Drink a warm cup with lunch or dinner during winter months. The combination of hydration, minerals, and warmth addresses multiple cramp triggers simultaneously. Now let me give you a sample daily action plan that combines all 4 protective walls. This is what I call the Winter Wellness Protocol morning routine. Upon waking, drink 8 ounces of warm lemon water. Put on your 15 to 20 millimeter mercury compression socks. Do 5 minutes of gentle calf stretches, standing stretches where you lean against a wall with one leg back, heel pressed to the floor, holding for 30 seconds on each side. Midday routine. Have warm bone broth with lunch. Take a 10-minute walk if weather permits, or do chair exercises indoors to promote circulation. Mid-afternoon, drink herbal tea. Evening routine. 2 hours before bed, have Greek yogurt with nuts and seeds. Do another 5 minutes of gentle stretching. Run your bedroom humidifier starting 30 minutes before you get into bed. Wear lightweight cotton or bamboo pants to sleep. Keep a small blanket specifically for your legs. Traditional wisdom combined with modern science. Our grandmothers knew something we forgot. They kept their homes slightly cooler but used quilts and blankets strategically. They drank warm beverages throughout the day. They ate mineral-rich bone broths and stews during winter. They weren't just surviving cold weather, they were working with their body's natural responses. Modern science now explains why these practices worked, validating thousands of years of intuitive wisdom. Here's your actionable checklist for immediate implementation. Purchase 15 to 20 millimeter mercury compression socks and wear them daily indoors. Set up a bedroom humidifier maintaining 40 to 50% humidity. Switch from cold water to warm herbal teas throughout the day. Add bone broth to your weekly meal rotation. Keep your legs covered while sleeping with lightweight, breathable fabric. Incorporate magnesium-rich and potassium-rich foods into daily meals. Safety warning. If you have diabetes, peripheral neuropathy, or circulation disorders, consult your doctor before using compression socks or heating devices. If cramps are accompanied by swelling, redness, warmth, or occur only in one leg, seek medical attention immediately, as these could indicate blood clots. If cramping persists despite these interventions for more than 4 weeks, schedule an evaluation to rule out underlying conditions like peripheral artery disease, thyroid disorders, or medication side effects. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity. You're not fighting your body's natural winter response, you're supporting it. You're not masking symptoms with medication, you're addressing root causes with environmental modifications and natural nutrition. And most importantly, you're taking back control of your winters, your sleep, and your quality of life. Remember how we started this conversation with Thomas in Minnesota? Jolted awake by excruciating pain every winter night, spending thousands on supplements that never worked. With Martha in Denver, afraid to babysit her granddaughter because she might wake the household with her cries. Both of them trapped in a seasonal cycle they couldn't understand or escape. Let me tell you what happened after they implemented the 4 protective walls we just discussed. Thomas bought compression socks, set up a humidifier in his bedroom, switched from ice water to warm herbal teas, and started keeping his legs covered at night. Within 2 weeks, his nightly cramps dropped from 4 per week to 1. Within a month, he went an entire week without a single episode. That first winter, after making these changes, he slept through the night more consistently than he had in 6 years. The following spring, when the cramps traditionally disappeared, he realized they'd already been gone for weeks. He'd broken the cycle. Martha's transformation was equally remarkable. She embraced the bone broth recommendation, making a big batch every Sunday and drinking a warm cup with lunch throughout the week. She added the Greek yogurt and nut mixture as her evening snack. Most importantly, she stopped fighting her body's need for warmth and humidity during winter. Her bedroom humidifier became as essential as her alarm clock. By her second winter following this protocol, she was babysitting overnight again, attending evening events without fear, and sleeping peacefully beside her husband. But here's what moves me most about their stories: the ripple effects. Thomas started coaching his woodworking club members who complained of similar symptoms. Martha shared her protocol with her church group, and within months, a dozen older women were experiencing relief. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional and social. They reclaimed their confidence, their independence, their joy in simple activities they'd been avoiding. Now I want you to imagine your next winter. Picture yourself getting into bed without that knot of anxiety in your stomach, wondering if tonight will be another night of interrupted sleep and agonizing pain. Imagine waking up naturally after 8 solid hours of rest, stretching without fear, standing up without hesitation. Imagine planning a winter visit to see your grandchildren without worrying about cramping episodes disrupting their household. This isn't fantasy. This is completely achievable, starting right now tonight with the protocol we've discussed. Here are your immediate action steps for today. First, order 15 to 20 millimeter mercury graduated compression socks online or pick them up at your local pharmacy. Look for brands that specifically mention graduated compression and are designed for daily wear. Not heavy medical-grade support stockings. Second, if you don't already have a bedroom humidifier, make that purchase today. A basic cool mist ultrasonic humidifier for $40 to $60 will do the job beautifully. Third, stock your pantry with herbal teas, bone broth ingredients, or quality pre-made bone broth. Greek yogurt, almonds, and pumpkin seeds. Tonight before bed, do 5 minutes of gentle calf stretches. Set up whatever humidifier you have available, even a pot of water near a radiator if that's all you can manage right away. Wear pants or place a light blanket over your legs when you sleep. These simple steps implemented immediately can start shifting your experience within days. Your future doesn't have to look like your past. The winter cramp crisis that's been controlling your life has a solution, and that solution is now in your hands. You have the knowledge, you have the protocol, and most importantly, you understand the science behind why this works. You're not just treating symptoms, you're addressing root causes. If this episode helped you understand your leg cramps for the first time, hit that like button. Comment below with which solution you're implementing. First, compression socks, humidifier, warm teas, or all three. And please subscribe to Verum Health and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode that could change your life. Share this with anyone you know who suffers through winter nights of cramping pain. Together we can help millions reclaim their winters. The next secret we uncover might be even more powerful than this one. It might address the health challenge you haven't even told your doctor about yet. Stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, aging doesn't mean suffering. It means wisdom, and wisdom means knowing there's always a better way. This is Dr. Samuel Harrison reminding you that your best years are still ahead, and they start with a good night's sleep. Sweet dreams, and here's to a cramp-free winter.